unified scale. That's the name I give to those patterns that I was using in the intro. Why is it called unified? There's only one shape or one fingering we have to remember to get us through the entire scale. The unified scale pattern. That's what we're doing today on Ray Plays Guitar. And we're going to do it as simply as possible. Let's get into it. I remember when I first learned the major scale, it was this pattern. We got 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2. Some strings have 2 notes, some strings have 3. Sometimes it's 2, 4, sometimes it's 1, 2. Sometimes it's 1, 2, 4, sometimes it's 1, 3, 4. As far as the fingering goes, it was very confusing. It took me a long time to remember that. And then I saw Eddie Van Halen playing things like this. Something like that, where he's always using the same fingers. And I'm like, I like that idea. So I thought, well, let's see if we could take that idea of just using one fingering and apply it to the major scale. This is what happens. Here's our first shape. It's just 1, 2, 4. That's the fingering. 1, 2, and then fourth finger. Got a half step and then a whole step. And then we do the same thing on the next string. That's 6 out of the 7 notes of a major scale right there. So that's our one thing to remember, this fingering. 1, 2, 4. I'm talking finger numbers, not frets. 1, 2, 4, okay? Fret-wise here, I'm playing 2, 3, and 5. So we just take that same shape and play it on 2 adjacent strings. Once we run out of fingers here, we just take that pinky and slide it up 2 frets. Once we're in this position, we just go to the next string and do the same thing. Then we drop a string and do the same thing, but here we're at the B string, so we have to shift up 1 fret. So the entire resulting pattern is this. So we're playing notes of a G major scale in this position. This pattern starts on the 7th note of a G major scale, in this case an F sharp. So this pattern works for the key of G major and all of the modes that go along with that. So the other unified pattern that I was playing involves this shape. We're playing every other fret. Here I'm starting on the 3rd fret, on G. We're going to be playing in the same key here. So there's our shape. We're going to take that same thing and move it to the next string. Once we get here, we move up a whole step. And that's it. Now, once we're here, we drop a string. And do the same thing. Once we're here, we drop a string, shift up. So the entire resulting pattern is... Now another place I like to do this every other fret thing in the same key is up here. You can kind of think of this as the Mixolydian version of what we were just doing, starting on the note D, which is the 5th of G, so kind of puts us in D Mixolydian, but it's all the parent key of G. This pattern is this. We do the every other thing for 3 strings. Then we shift up a whole step. Now, once we're in this new position, We're still doing the 3 thing for 3 strings before we shift up. Now, a sort of sequence that I like to apply to both of these unified patterns is this. So what I'm doing here is you play the pattern, and whenever you shift to the next string, you only play the first 2 notes of that, and then you go back to the previous string. So here's what's happening. Going to the first 2 notes of the next string, coming back to this string, and then just continuing up the scale. Then once we get here, it's time to go to the next string, play the first 2 notes, come back, and then continue. Next string, first 2 notes, come back, and then continue. Here's the whole thing slowly. So here I'm playing it very legato using hammer-ons and slides. Hammer-on. Even that pinky, when I'm going back to that previous string, I'm just slapping it down and doing a hammer-on there. Now the other pattern that I was playing in the intro was up in this position, and I'm using the every other fret pattern. Let me just play through it slowly. So here we're starting off on the 10th fret, going every other fret, just going up the scale. Go to the next string, play the first 2 notes. Come back, and then continue. Next string, first 2 notes, come back, and then continue. That's the entire pattern right there. From here, I'm going to shift my hand up to here and just do the same thing again. That's the whole pattern. Here I'm going to shift up, and you can start the same thing, or I end it, I just do something like that. You can do whatever you want. But here's this whole pattern. Something like that. The patterns and the positions that we just played today are in the parent key of G. So these notes in these positions work for the key of G major and all of its related modes. That includes E minor, A Dorian. Now the backing track that I'm using here is in the key of A Dorian, and I'll put the link up here. Unless you're on a TV, then I don't know where the link is. But if you're on your computer, smartphone, or iPad, the link should be right there. So that's a link to the backing track. It's a fun backing track. I like that one a lot, so enjoy. So that's the unified scale pattern in a nutshell. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share this with your friends, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that notification bell. But most of all, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.